The red sand of Zarian Prime swirled around Jake Morrison's boots as he led his squad through the rocky canyon. The twin suns hung high in the alien sky, casting strange shadows across the barren landscape. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and checked his scanner again. Nothing but empty desert for miles. "Sergeant, are you sure we're going the right way?" asked Corporal Amy Chen, adjusting her heavy pack. She had been complaining about the heat for the past hour, but Jake knew she was tough. All his Marines were tough. They had to be out here in the contested border zone between human and alien space. "The patrol route is clear, Chen. We follow the canyon, check the old mining stations, then head back to base," Jake replied. He kept his voice steady, but something felt wrong. His instincts had kept him alive through 3 tours of duty, and right now they were screaming at him to stay alert. Private Ben Harper jogged up beside them, his young face red from the heat. "Sarge, my scanner is picking up something weird. About 2 clicks north of here. Looks like metal, but it's not showing up on our maps." Jake stopped walking and pulled out his own scanner. The device beeped softly as it analyzed the area. Harper was right. There was definitely something large and metallic in the direction he had indicated. Something that had not been there when they had planned this patrol. "Could be a drop pod," suggested Specialist Katie Stone, the squad's demolitions expert. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her blue eyes were already scanning the horizon for threats. "Maybe one of ours went off course." Jake shook his head. No human ships were scheduled for this sector. Command would have told us if there were any emergency landings. He thought for a moment, weighing their options. Standard procedure was to report any unknown contacts and wait for backup. But backup was 6 hours away, and whatever was out there might not wait that long. "What are your orders, Sergeant?" asked Dr. Alan Burke, the squad's medic. He was older than the others, with gray hair and kind eyes. Burke had seen enough war to know when something was about to go very wrong. Jake made his decision. "We check it out. We go in careful. Stone, you take point. Chen, watch R6. Harper, keep that scanner running. Burke, stay close to me." The squad moved through the desert in perfect formation. They had trained together for 2 years, and each Marine knew exactly what the others would do in any situation. Jake felt proud of his team, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. These were good people, and it was his job to bring them home safe. As they crested a small hill, Jake saw it. A massive ship lay broken in the valley below, its hull split open like a cracked egg. The metal was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, changing color from silver to deep purple as the light hit it from different angles. "That's not human," whispered Harper, his voice filled with wonder and fear. "No kidding," muttered Stone. She raised her rifle and scanned the area around the crash site. "I'm not seeing any movement, but that doesn't mean nobody's home." Jake studied the wreckage through his binoculars. The ship was clearly alien in design, with smooth curves and strange symbols carved into its hull. But what caught his attention was the way the metal seemed to be glowing faintly from within, as if it contained some kind of internal light source. "Could be Vorthok," said Chen quietly. Everyone knew about the Vorthok Empire. They were the most advanced alien species that humans had encountered, and they were not friendly. The 2 civilizations had been fighting a cold war for 5 years, with occasional hot skirmishes in the border regions. "If it is Vorthok, we need to report this immediately," Burke said, already reaching for his communication equipment. "Wait," Jake said, holding up his hand. Something had caught his eye. Near the main break in the ship's hull, he could see movement. Very slight, but definitely there. "There's someone alive down there." Harper adjusted his scanner settings. "I'm picking up a single life sign. Very weak. Whatever it is, it's not doing well." Jake felt his stomach tighten. If there was a Vorthok survivor, this situation just became much more complicated. The standing orders were clear. Avoid contact with aliens unless absolutely necessary. He could not just leave someone to die, even if they were supposed to be the enemy. "We go down there," he decided. "But we stay ready for anything. If this is a trap, I want to be able to get out fast." The squad moved carefully down the hillside, using the scattered rocks for cover. As they got closer to the wreckage, Jake could see more details. The ship had obviously crashed at high speed, but something about the damage looked wrong. The hull had been torn open from the inside, as if something had exploded within the ship itself. This wasn't just a crash, Stone observed, running her hand along the twisted metal. Someone blew this ship apart. They found the survivor near what looked like the ship's command center. Jake had expected to see a Vorthok warrior, one of the tall, armored beings that appeared in human intelligence briefings. Instead, he found something that took his breath away. The alien was clearly female, though her appearance was unlike anything in human experience. Her skin had a translucent quality, like crystal or glass, and seemed to glow with a soft inner light. Her hair was long and silver, flowing like liquid metal. She was tall and elegant, even lying broken on the ground. And she wore robes that seemed to be made of the same shimmering material as the ship. But what struck Jake most was how young she looked. Despite her alien features, there was something about her face that reminded him of his younger sister back on Earth. She was hurt, scared, and alone. "Is she breathing?" Burke asked, kneeling beside the alien. His medical training had taken over, and he was already checking for vital signs. "I think so, but it's hard to tell. Her physiology is completely different from ours." Burke pulled out his scanner and ran it over the alien's body. "Her life signs are very weak, and there's something else. She's been poisoned." Jake frowned. "Poisoned? How can you tell? Look at her skin. See how it's getting darker around the edges. That's not normal. Something is spreading through her system, and it's killing her." Burke looked up at Jake with worry in his eyes. "She doesn't have much time." Suddenly the alien's eyes opened. They were large and violet, like amethysts, and they fixed on Jake with surprising intelligence. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "She's trying to say something," Harper said, leaning closer. The alien reached out with one trembling hand and touched a device on her wrist. Suddenly, the air around them filled with a soft musical voice, speaking perfect English. "Please," the voice said, though the alien's lips continued to move silently. "You must help me. I am Princess Zarathal of the Vorthok Empire. I was coming to your people in peace, but someone has poisoned me. I die here. Both our peoples will blame each other. There will be war across the galaxy." Jake felt his world shift. This was not just any alien. This was royalty. Someone important enough to start or stop a war. And she was dying right in front of him. "Princess," he said carefully, "I'm Sergeant Jake Morrison of the Human Colonial Marines. We want to help you, but we don't know how. Our medicine might not work on your people." The princess's eyes grew dim, but she forced herself to speak through the translator. "There is a way, but it requires great sacrifice. I do not know if your people have the courage to make it." Jake looked around at his squad. Each of them was staring at the dying alien princess, understanding that this moment would change everything. In the distance, he could hear the sound of approaching ships. Time was running out, and the fate of two civilizations might rest in his hands. The sound of approaching ships grew louder, and Jake could see dark shapes moving across the sky. His communication device crackled to life, and Colonel Lisa Martinez's voice came through clearly. "Morrison, report your status immediately. Have multiple alien contacts incoming to your position." Jake looked down at the dying princess, then back at his squad. They were all waiting for his decision. He pressed the transmit button on his radio. "Colonel, we have a situation." "The crash site. There's a survivor, and she claims to be Vorthok royalty. She's been poisoned and is dying rapidly." There was a long pause before Martinez responded. "Did you say royalty?" "Morrison, you need to get out of there right now. We have 3 Vorthok. Battleships dropping out of hyperspace. I'm not here for a friendly chat." Jake watched as the princess's breathing became more labored. Her crystal-like skin was turning darker by the minute, and the glow that seemed to come from within her was fading fast. "Colonel, if this princess dies, they're going to blame us. She said there would be war across the galaxy." "That's not our problem, Sergeant. Your orders are to extract immediately and return to base. Do you understand me?" Jake looked at his squad again. Chen was shaking her head, knowing what he was thinking. Harper was scanning the sky nervously. Stone had her weapon ready, but her eyes were on the princess. Burke was still trying to figure out how to help the alien. "I understand, Colonel, but I need to know our options. Is there any way we can help her?" Martinez's voice became sharp. "Morrison, You are not authorized to make first contact decisions. Get your people out of there before those ships arrive." Before Jake could respond, the princess touched her translator device again. Her voice was weaker now, but still clear. "Your commander is wise to be cautious. My people believe that humans killed me. They are coming for revenge, but I know the truth. This was not done by your people or mine. There are those on both sides who profit from war. They poisoned me to prevent peace." Dr. Burke looked up from his medical scanner. "Sergeant, I'm reading. Some kind of quantum-level toxin in her system. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's actually breaking down her cellular structure at the molecular level." "Can you treat it?" Jake asked. Burke shook his head. "Not with anything we have. This isn't just poison. It's designed specifically for her species. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." The princess struggled to sit up, and Jake moved to help her. Her skin felt warm and smooth like polished stone. "There is a way," she whispered, "but it requires equipment that only my people have. The nearest quantum stabilizer is aboard the ship Shadowbane. It is the largest vessel in the fleet approaching." "Your position, great," muttered Stone. "So we just need to ask the people who want to kill us to lend us their medical equipment." "It is worse than that," the princess continued. "Captain Vexstar commands the Shadowbane. He is my cousin, and he loved me like a sister. When he sees that I am dying, he will not listen to reason. He will glass this entire planet in revenge." Jake felt his stomach drop. Glass the planet? A turn. The surface into molten glass with plasma bombardment. Every human on this world will die, and then he will move on to your colonies. The war will spread until both our civilizations are destroyed. The communication device crackled again. "Morrison, I'm getting reports that the Vorthok ships are powering up their weapons. You have maybe 10 minutes before they're in firing. Position." Burke was studying his scanner readings more carefully. "Wait a minute, this is interesting. The quantum poison seems to be disrupting her natural bioelectric field. If we could stabilize that field, we might be able to slow down the poisoning process."
"How?"
Jake asked. "Well, in theory. If we could create a bioelectric bridge between her nervous system and a compatible energy source, we might be able to counteract the toxin's effects." Harper looked confused. "What kind of energy source?" Burke was quiet for a moment, then his face went pale. "A human nervous system. The bioelectric patterns are different enough that they might cancel out the quantum disruption. But it would require a direct neural connection. Is that safe?" Chen asked. "For her? Probably. For the human? Definitely not. The process would require channeling massive amounts of bioelectric energy through the human nervous system. The strain could cause permanent brain damage or death." Jake felt everyone's eyes on him. The princess was looking at him too, her violet eyes filled with pain and something else. "Hope, maybe." "There has to be another way," he said. The princess shook her head weakly. "I have studied your species. You have something that mine does not. You call it courage, but it is more than that. You have the ability to sacrifice everything for strangers. That is why some of my people fear you, and why others believe we could be allies." "Sarge," Harper said quietly. "Incoming message from the Vorthok fleet." Jake's radio crackled, and a new voice came through. This one was deep and filled with rage, speaking heavily accented English. "Human soldiers. This is Captain Vexstar of the Imperial Vorthok Navy. You will surrender immediately, and prepare to be executed for the murder of Princess Zarathal. You have 5 minutes to comply." The princess grabbed Jake's arm with surprising strength. "He does not know I am still alive. If he hears my voice, he might listen. But I am too weak to maintain the connection much longer." Burke was working frantically with his medical equipment. "I think I can modify our neural interface headsets to create the bioelectric bridge, but I need more time to make sure it's safe." "How much time?" Jake asked. "At least an hour. Maybe 2. "We don't have 2 hours," Stone said, pointing at the sky. "We've got about 4 minutes before Captain Angry up there turns us into space dust." Jake made a decision. "Burke, start the modifications. Harper, see if you can boost our communication range. We need to get word to our fleet about what's really happening here." "What about the Vorthok ships?" Chen asked. Princess, can you contact your cousin? Tell him you're alive? The princess nodded, but Jake could see it was taking all her remaining strength. She pressed her translator device and spoke in her own language. The sound was like musical bells, but there was urgency in it. A few moments later, Vextar's voice came through the radio again, but this time he was speaking in the Vorthok language. The conversation between the cousins was rapid and emotional. Are they saying? Jake asked. She's telling him that she's alive but dying. She's explaining about the poison and the conspiracy. He is ... He is very angry, but not at you anymore. The princess finished speaking and collapsed back against the wreckage. Her breathing was shallow and rapid. He is sending a medical team down immediately, she whispered. But they will not arrive in time. The poison is spreading too quickly. Burke looked up from his equipment. The neural interface modifications are almost complete. But I have to warn you, whoever volunteers for this has maybe a 30% chance of survival. I'll do it, Jake said immediately. Sarge No Chen protested. Let me do it. I'm smaller. Maybe I can handle the energy better. Should be me, Harper said. I'm the youngest. I have the most to live for, so I'll fight harder to survive. Nobody's doing anything yet, Jake said firmly. Burke, how long do we have? At our current rate of deterioration, maybe 15 minutes. 20 at the outside. Above them, the Vorthok ships were taking positions in orbit. Jake could see smaller craft breaking away from the main fleet, heading toward the planet's surface. Medical team will be here in 10 minutes, the princess said. But they cannot help me without the quantum stabilizer from the Shadowbane. And Captain Vextar cannot risk bringing his ship into your planet's atmosphere. The gravity would tear it apart. Jake looked at his squad, then at the dying princess. Somewhere in space above them, two fleets were preparing for a war that would destroy billions of lives. The only thing standing between peace and destruction was one impossible choice. Burke, he said quietly, finish those modifications, fast. Burke's hands moved quickly over his equipment, connecting wires and adjusting settings. The modified neural interface headset looked like a strange metal crown, with thin cables running from it to his medical scanner. Jake watched the doctor work, knowing that each passing second brought the princess closer to death. Almost done, Burke muttered, sweat dripping down his face. Just need to calibrate the bioelectric frequency. The princess was barely conscious now. Her crystal-like skin had turned almost completely dark, and the inner light that had glowed within her was fading to nothing. She looked up at Jake with eyes that were growing dim. You do not have to do this, she whispered through the translator. I am just one person. You have a life to live. Jake knelt beside her. You're not just one person. You're the key to peace between our peoples. Your people and mine have been enemies for years. Why would you risk everything for me? He remembered his sister back on Earth and his parents who had taught him to help others. He thought about all the soldiers on both sides who would die if this war continued. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply. Chen grabbed Jake's arm. Sarge, you can't do this. The squad needs you. Let me take the risk. No, Jake said firmly. This is my decision and my responsibility. Stone stepped forward. Jake, think about this. You've got a good life ahead of you. You're up for promotion. You could go home, marry that girl you're always talking about. Jake smiled. Sadly, Lisa will understand. She knows what kind of man I am. Harper was watching the sky nervously. The Vorthok medical team is almost here. Maybe they can help. They won't arrive in time, Burke said, not looking up from his work. And even if they did, they don't have the quantum stabilizer. It's ready. He held up the modified headset. It hummed with energy, and small lights blinked along the cables. How does it work? Jake asked. You put on the headset and I'll place a second interface on the princess. The system will create a direct neural link between your brain and hers. Your bioelectric field will merge with hers, and hopefully that will neutralize the poison and the risks. Burke's face was grim. The energy required will be enormous. Your nervous system will have to channel power levels it was never designed to handle. You could have seizures, brain damage, or cardiac arrest. And that's if everything goes perfectly. Jake took the headset from Burke's hands. It was heavier than he expected, and he could feel the energy pulsing through it. "What will happen to her?" he asked. "If it works, the poison will be neutralized, and her natural healing abilities should take over. But the process will create a permanent neural link between you. You'll share some memories and emotions for the rest of your lives." Jake looked at the princess. Her breathing was so shallow now that he could barely see her chest moving. There was no more time for questions or doubts.
"Do it,"
he said. Burke placed the second interface on the princess's forehead. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked at Jake with a mixture of gratitude and fear. "I am sorry," she whispered. "This will hurt you as much as it hurts me." "I know," Jake said, putting on the headset. "But some things are worth the pain." Burke activated the system, and immediately Jake felt electricity coursing through his body. It started as a tingling sensation, then grew stronger. He could feel his heartbeat accelerating, and his vision began to blur. "Neural link established," Burke announced. "Bioelectric field merger beginning." Suddenly, Jake was no longer alone in his own mind. He could feel the princess's presence, her thoughts. Mixing with his own, he experienced her memories as if they were his own, growing up in crystal palaces on a distant world, learning about duty and honor, studying human culture in preparation for the peace negotiations. At the same time, she was seeing his memories, his childhood on Earth, his military training, his love for his family, and his determination to protect innocent people. She felt his fear, not for himself, but for what would happen to both their peoples if she died. The pain was incredible. Jake felt like his entire nervous system was on fire. His body convulsed, and he could taste blood in his mouth. Their shared connection, he could also feel the princess's agony as the poison ate away at her crystalline structure. "Fight it," he told her through the neural link. "Don't let it win." "I am trying," she replied, her mental voice weak. "But it is so strong." Jake drew on every ounce of strength and willpower he possessed. He thought about his sister, about his parents, about all the people who were counting on him. He channeled all of that love and determination through the neural link. Pouring his life force into the battle against the poison, the princess fought alongside him. Using his strength to push back against the toxin, together they began to make progress. The darkness in her skin started to recede, and the inner light began to return. But the effort was destroying Jake's body. His heart stopped once, then twice. Burke worked frantically to keep him alive, using medical stimulants and electric shocks. To restart his heart each time, his brain activity is dropping, Burke shouted. "I'm losing him." Through the neural link, the princess felt Jake's life force weakening. She tried to pull back, to reduce the drain on his system, but Jake refused to let her retreat. "Keep fighting," he told her. "We're almost there." Around them, Jake's squad watched in horror as their sergeant's body convulsed and his life signs failed. Chen was crying and Harper was praying. Stone stood ready to take over if something went wrong. High above them, the Vorthok medical team had arrived and was descending toward the crash site. Captain Vextar's voice came through the radio, demanding updates on his cousin's condition. "The neural bridge is working," Burke reported. "The poison is being neutralized, but I don't know if Jake can survive much longer." Jake felt himself fading, but he refused to give up. Through the link, he could sense the princess growing stronger. The poison was almost gone, and her natural healing abilities were taking over. "Just a little more." "I will not let you die for me," the princess said through the link. "I am going." "To share my life force with you?" "No," Jake protested. "You need all your strength to heal. We are linked now. If you die, part of me dies too. I will not accept that." The princess began channeling her own energy back through the neural link. Jake felt her strength flowing into him, sustaining his failing body. It was a delicate balance. He gave her the power to fight the poison, and she gave him the strength to survive the process. Slowly, the crisis passed. The poison was neutralized, and both of them were alive. Jake's heart stabilized, and his brain activity returned to normal levels. The princess's skin returned to its natural crystal clarity, and her inner light blazed brightly once again. Burke carefully removed the neural interfaces. But the connection between Jake and the princess remained. They could still sense each other's thoughts and emotions, though not as strongly as during the procedure. Is it over? Jake asked weakly. It is over, the princess replied, her voice stronger now. You saved my life. You saved both our peoples. Jake smiled and closed his eyes. He had done it. The war would not happen. Peace was possible. As the Vorthok medical team reached the crash site, Jake Morrison lost consciousness, secure in the knowledge that his sacrifice had changed the fate of two civilizations. Jake woke up 3 days later in a medical facility he had never seen before. The walls were white and clean, but they curved in strange ways that hurt his eyes to look at. Strange machines surrounded his bed, making soft humming sounds. His head felt heavy, and his body ached all over. You are awake, came a familiar voice. Jake turned his head and saw Princess Zarathal sitting beside his bed. She looked completely different now. Her skin glowed with health, and her violet eyes were bright and alert. But there was something else different about her expression. She looked at him with a warmth that had not been there before. Where am I? Jake asked. His voice was rough and weak. You are aboard the Shadowbane, my cousin's ship. Your Dr. Burke and our medical team worked together to save your life. It was very close. You died twice more after the neural bridge procedure. Jake tried to sit up, but his body would not cooperate. My squad, are they safe? They are fine. They are on your human ship, the Defender, which arrived yesterday. Your Colonel Martinez wanted to take you back immediately, but our doctors said you could not be moved. How long was I unconscious? 3 days. The neural bridge did more damage to your system than Dr. Burke expected. But it also did something amazing. You have been changed by our connection. Jake looked at his hands. They looked normal, but he could feel something different about them. There was a slight tingling sensation, like electricity running just under his skin. What kind of changes? The princess smiled. Your body now produces bioelectric fields similar to mine. You heal faster, you are stronger, and you are resistant to most energy weapons. The neural bridge permanently altered your cellular structure, and are you different too? Yes. I can now understand human emotions in ways that no Vorthok has ever been able to before. I can feel your pain, your fear, your hope. It is overwhelming sometimes, but also wonderful. Jake closed his eyes and immediately felt the princess's presence in his mind. It was gentle and warm, like sunlight on his face. He could sense her thoughts and feelings, though not as clearly as during the procedure. This connection between us, he said, is it permanent? Yes, we are bonded for life. In my culture, this makes us closer than family. You are now my bond brother, and I am your bond sister. The door to the medical room opened, and a tall Vorthok male entered. He was wearing a military uniform covered in medals and decorations. His skin was darker than the princess's, and his eyes were gold instead of violet. Jake immediately knew this was Captain Vexstar. This is the human who saved my cousin's life, Vexstar said, in accented English. His voice was deep and commanding, but not unfriendly. Captain Jake tried to stand, but Vexstar waved him back down. Please remain seated. You are still recovering. Vexstar pulled up a chair and sat down. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. When I thought Zarathal was dead, I was prepared. To destroy your entire world, you prevented a war that would have consumed both our civilizations. I just did what anyone would have done, Jake said. Vexstar laughed, a sound like wind chimes. No human. Most beings would have followed orders and left her to die. You chose to risk everything for a stranger. That is not normal behavior. It is for humans, the princess said quietly. That is what makes them special. Dr. Burke entered the room, followed by a tall Vorthok female wearing medical robes. Burke looked tired but happy. Jake, good to see you awake. How are you feeling? Like, I got hit by a truck, but alive thanks to you. Don't thank me yet. We have a lot to discuss. Dirk sat down and pulled out a datapad. The neural bridge procedure worked better than we hoped, but there were some unexpected side effects. The princess told me about the physical changes. Anything else I should know? The Vorthok doctor spoke up. Your brain patterns have been permanently altered. You now process information differently. You may find that you can understand our language and technology more easily than other humans. Is that good or bad? It is unprecedented, she replied. You are the first human to successfully bond with a Vorthok. We do not know what the long-term effects will be. Burke leaned forward. There's something else. During the procedure, we detected something in the princess's blood. Evidence of the poison that was used to kill her. What kind of evidence? Jake asked. The poison was artificial. It was designed specifically to target Vorthok physiology. But the interesting part is that it contains elements that could only have been created using both human and Vorthok technology. Captain Vextar's expression darkened. What are you saying? I'm saying that whoever poisoned the princess had access to technology from both our species. This was a joint operation. The princess gripped Jake's hand. I told you there was a conspiracy. People from both sides who want to keep the war going. Have you identified who is responsible? Jake asked. Vextar nodded grimly. We have been investigating since the princess was poisoned. We found evidence of a secret alliance between extremist groups in both our militaries. They have been sabotaging peace efforts for years. Why would they do that? War is profitable, the princess said sadly. There are people who make money from selling weapons and supplies to both sides. Peace would ruin their business. Burke showed Jake his datapad. We've identified at least 12 individuals involved in the conspiracy, 6 humans and 6 Vorthok. They've been working together to stage attacks that each side would blame on the other. What happens now? Jake asked. Now we stop them, Vextar said firmly. But we need proof that will convince both our governments. It's the neural bridge between. You and Zarathel has given us that proof. How? The princess explained. During our connection, I shared my memories of the poisoning with you. You saw through my eyes what happened. But more importantly, you felt my emotions. You know with absolute certainty that I was coming to your people in peace. And I shared my memories of finding you, Jake realized. You know that we weren't responsible for the attack. Exactly. Our testimony, backed by the neural link, will be evidence that neither side can deny. We are living proof that cooperation between our species is possible. Dr. Burke smiled. There's more. The bioelectric changes in both of you seem to be permanent. Jake, you now have some Vorthok abilities. Princess, you have developed human-like emotional responses. You're both examples of what our species could become if we worked together. Jake felt a surge of hope through the neural link. The princess was thinking the same thing he was. This was just the beginning. What about the conspiracy? He asked. Colonel Martinez is working with my intelligence officers to arrest the conspirators, Vextar said. But that is just the first step. We need to build trust between our peoples. And you two are going to help us do that. How? By showing everyone what we saw here, the princess said. A human soldier who risked his life to save an alien. A Vorthok who shared her strength to keep him alive. Proof that our species can work together. Jake looked around the room at the mix of human and Vorthok medical equipment. Dr. Burke, working alongside the alien doctor, and Captain Vextar, treating him as an honored guest instead of an enemy. You know what? He said, I think this is going to work. The princess squeezed his hand, and through their bond, Jake felt her absolute certainty that they would succeed in building a lasting peace between their peoples. 3 months later, Jake stood before the largest gathering of beings he had ever seen. The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out before him like a vast arena. Representatives from dozens of species filled the curved seating areas, their different forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Today, all eyes were focused on the center of the hall, where Jake and Princess Zarathal stood together at the speaker's podium. Jake wore his best-dressed uniform with new medals on his chest that he still could not believe he had earned. Beside him, the princess wore robes of silver and blue that seemed to capture and reflect the light from the hall's crystal ceiling. The neural bond between them hummed quietly in the background of his thoughts, giving him strength and confidence. Honored. Representatives, the princess began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's translation system. 3 months ago, I was dying on a distant world. I had been poisoned by those who wanted to prevent peace between my people and the humans. I should have died that day, and if I had, billions would have died in the war that followed. Jake stepped forward, but I did not let her die, and she did not let me die either. Together, we proved that our species can work side by side, even in the most difficult circumstances. The hall was completely silent. Jake could see representatives from both the Human Coalition and the Vorthok Empire sitting in their designated sections. Some looked hopeful, others appeared skeptical, but they were all listening. The conspiracy against peace has been broken, Jake continued. 12 individuals from both our species who profited from war have been arrested and put on trial. The evidence against them is overwhelming. Admiral Sarah Watson, representing the Human Coalition, stood up in her section. Lieutenant Morrison, the evidence you and the princess provided has been invaluable. But what guarantee do we have that? Peace will last. Our species have been enemies for years, Princess Zarathel answered. The guarantee is standing before you. Lieutenant Morrison and I share a neural bond that allows us to understand each other completely. There can be no lies between us, no hidden agendas. We are living proof that humans and Vorthok can not only coexist, but thrive together. Lord, Commander Kethfer of the Vorthok delegation rose from his seat. Princess, with all respect, you are just two individuals. How can you speak for entire civilizations? Jake felt the princess's confidence through their bond, and it strengthened his own resolve. Because we are not alone, he said. In the past 3 months, we have worked with teams of scientists, diplomats, and soldiers from both species. The neural bridge procedure has been refined and made safer. Volunteers from both sides have undergone the bonding process. How many? Asked a representative from the Centauri Alliance. 57 successful bonds so far, the princess replied. Each one creates a bridge of understanding between our peoples. These bonded pairs have become ambassadors, teachers, and proof that cooperation is not only possible, but beneficial. Jake activated a holographic display that showed images from the past 3 months. The first image was of a joint human Vorthok research station where scientists worked together to develop new medical technologies. Using combined human adaptability and Vorthok precision, we have made breakthroughs in medicine that neither species could have achieved alone, Jake explained. Diseases that have plagued both our peoples for centuries now have cures. The next image showed a military training facility where human and Vorthok soldiers practiced together. Our combined forces have successfully captured the remaining conspiracy members and prevented 17 planned attacks that would have restarted the war, the princess added. But the most important achievement, Jake said, bringing up the final image, is this. The hologram showed a beautiful world with 2 types of cities. Some were built in the flowing, crystal style of the Vorthok, while others had the geometric, practical design that humans preferred. But they were not separate. The cities flowed together with humans and Vorthok living and working side by side. New harmony, the princess announced. The first integrated colony world. 5,000 humans and 5,000 Vorthok live there together as equals. They share resources, knowledge, and friendship. Crime is almost non-existent. Productivity is 30% higher than on single-species worlds. And the children. Jake smiled as he remembered visiting the colony. The children play together like they have never known that their species were supposed to be enemies. They learn each other's languages and customs. They're growing up as citizens of 2 worlds instead of 1, representative from the Andromedon. Confederation asked, what about those who oppose this integration? Surely not everyone supports these changes. You are right, Jake admitted. There are extremists on both sides who still believe in the old hatred. But they are a small minority, and they grow smaller every day as more people see the benefits of cooperation. The neural bond has taught us something important, the princess said. Fear comes from misunderstanding, when you truly know someone. When you can feel their hopes and dreams as clearly as your own, it becomes impossible to hate them. Lord Commander Kethfer stood again. Princess, what exactly are you asking the council to approve? Jake and the princess looked at each other, sharing a moment of understanding through their bond. This was the moment they had been working toward for months. "We propose the formal establishment of the Human Vorthok Alliance," Jake announced. "A permanent treaty between our species based on mutual respect, shared resources, and joint governance of border worlds. We also propose the creation of the Integration Protocol," the princess added. "A voluntary program that would allow other species to undergo neural bonding procedures with humans and Vorthok. This could be the foundation for true galactic unity." The hall erupted in discussion as representatives talked among themselves. Jake could hear dozens of different languages and see species that had been enemies for centuries sitting near each other for the first time. Admiral Watson stood up again. "The Human Coalition supports this proposal. Lieutenant Morrison has shown us that courage and compassion can overcome any barrier." Lord Commander Kethfer nodded. "The Vorthok Empire also gives its full support. Princess Zarathal has proven that wisdom and strength are not mutually exclusive." One by one, other representatives stood to voice their support. Not all of them agreed immediately, but the majority clearly favored the proposal. Jake felt a wave of emotion through the neural bond. The princess was crying tears of joy, and he found his own eyes growing wet. "There is one more thing," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The princess and I would like to make a personal announcement." The hall grew quiet again. "Princess Zarathal has asked me to serve as her bond brother and co-ambassador to the galaxy. I have accepted. Together, we will work to expand the alliance to include any species that desires peace and cooperation. And I formally adopt Jake Morrison as my bond brother according to Vorthok tradition," the princess announced. "He is now a citizen of both our worlds with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." The Galactic Council voted that day to approve the Human Vorthok Alliance by an overwhelming margin. But more than that, they voted to begin studies on how the Integration Protocol could be expanded to include other species. As Jake and the princess left the Great Hall together, they could feel the hope and excitement of billions of beings across the galaxy. The neural bond that had saved one life had grown into something that would transform the universe. Years later, historians would mark this day as the beginning of the true galactic age, when species stopped fighting each other and started working together toward a common future. And it all began with one human soldier who chose to save a dying alien princess, proving that sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply choosing to care about a stranger.